Kevin Anderson, who is the CEO and editor-in-chief of KAA, Kevin Anderson and Associates, a book writing and editorial service with an in-house staff of former Big Five executive editors, literary agents, and best-selling writers. So first of all, welcome to the show, Kevin. It's great to have you here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alison. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really interested in the origin story. When you're growing up on a farm in northern Alberta, did you ever think to yourself, yeah, absolutely one day going to be running a literary and editorial services agency? Was that part of the plan?
No, that was never, ever part of the plan.
So how did it happen?
No, it was a long, unwieldy journey to get there. And it was never the plan until just before it became the plan. So, yeah.
Sometimes things are happening and you go, oh, look, this is the plan.
That's right. That's exactly right. It was a lot of just jumping on opportunities and just being excited about what kind of came up in front of me and just deciding whether to take one fork in the road versus another. So, but yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's been a lot of fun building it from nothing to what it is today.
It's a good, because you started at Harvard, didn't you, with the sort of essay writing? Were you working on sort of academic work at Harvard, and then where did you see the
Yeah,
opportunity sort of growing?
yeah. So, I mean, when I was at Harvard, I was doing my graduate studies. I was studying literary theory and criticism, and I thought I was going to go on to be a professor and to teach. And I started a tutoring company. So we were doing all kinds of tutoring, English, but also the sciences. I mean, I didn't do any of the tutoring myself for the sciences. I would bring in my colleagues. Um, and it was just a matter of time before, we had all of our team was all Harvard PhDs or working on their PhDs or graduate level candidates. And a publishing company reached out to us and they needed help with copy editing. It was like a vanity press originally. And we had never even thought about editing books. It never even came across the radar or ghostwriting. Ghostwriting was, I didn't even know what that was at all at that time. And so we started editing books for them, and eventually they sent us a book that was in such shambles that there was no way we could work on it. And so we kicked it back to them and said, we can't really, this isn't even at a state that we can edit it. So they said, well, can you just write us a new one? And during the course of, I've started a couple different companies, and one of the things that has been, I don't know. I don't say no. I will say yes, and then figure it out on the backside
That's
and make
so
sure that
entrepreneurial.
that we're bringing what we can. You put your reputation on the line, but you make sure that you follow through, right? And so we said, well, sure, yeah, sounds feasible. Yes, we could. I didn't have any cracks in the pavement. It always says, absolutely, we can do that. Let me get back to you with a price. And then so I went back and and figured out with the team which people we had that were going to be the best writer, who had experience writing a book, who was available, what was the price going to be, and then we went back to them with a proposal that looked like we'd done a million of them. And so that's what started the ghostwriting business. And over the years, I mean, that was probably back in 2000 and, I don't know, 7 or 8, maybe 9 actually, by the time ghostwriting came along. And then over the years, we just really started, anytime we thought we could improve, bringing in-house, editors from the Big Five at a really high level, people that had edited Brene Brown or Simon Sinek, like bringing them in-house so that those editors could work with the clients, bringing in extra editorial teams that was also in-house, so we didn't have to be dependent on freelancers. These kinds of things we built over time, and anytime we thought we could do something better or integrate some other element or service into the process, then we just we did so. But yeah, it was something that just came. It was never part of a plan. There was no business plan. There was never any investments or anything like that. It was always just organically growing and just jumping to opportunities as they came up.
It's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, there's a kind of great phrase that they always say: the best people in publishing are no longer in publishing. They've all gone off into, and it's a real shift in the dynamics of the industry. And I'm really interested in what it is, because it's not just ghostwriting and editorial service. I want to come on to some of the other stuff that you do that I found really fascinating, sort of looking through the website. But why is it, do you think,
Yeah.
that writers reach out to you? What is it that they know that they need that you're giving them?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really, people come to us because they want the best editorial support they can get. So, when a big reason that a lot of people don't self-publish, in fact, is because they're concerned about the quality of the editor that they're going to have on their book. And so with us, they're able to come and get that caliber of editor that they would get at HarperCollins or Random House, because we have them on our team. We've made that a part of our company, is to have that level of editorial talent on the team. So writers come to us from all stages in their book writing process. Some come to us obviously with looking for a lot of help with book coaching, or ghostwriting, and then others have already written their book or are really skilled, even best-selling writer, and they come to us just to have that editorial guidance, from someone who's published hundreds of books and dozens of bestsellers. So sometimes it's sharpening the edges and just really fine tuning a product, and other times it's really coming up with the whole concept and figuring out what's going to work from a book. Some people come to us without a concept. They've already written a couple books and they want to come up with another one, and they've got a couple ideas, but they really want help figuring out the whole picture, the structure, and also making sure that it's something that's going to be marketable, and that they're actually going to have a target reader that's going to buy the book.
And it's interesting because this is, in the old days, this is the sort of work an in-house editor at a publisher might have done with their authors,
Yes.
and just don't have the overhead, the resource to do it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, see, a lot of the editors that are on our team right now, the reason why they're on our team, and a big part of the reason why we were able to attract that level of talent, um, you know, uh, is because in their previous jobs at the publishers, they weren't even able to edit during their working hours. Like they got into this job mostly because they love books, they love working with authors. But by the time they were editorial directors or at executive editor level positions, they found that most of their actual work with authors and editing the manuscripts was happening in the evenings and
Mm.
weekends, on their own time. And, they were doing merchandising meetings and
Right.
in all kinds, in design meetings and all these other things that weren't really their first love in the first place. And so what what we were able to give them was, hey, look, you can work on books every day, all day, 8 hours a day. We won't ask you to work evenings and weekends. Just come and just really deliver this talent to authors and actually work with the authors. So our approach with working with authors and our approach with our in-house team is very collaborative. It's very hands-on with our clients. So that was something that really attracted both our clients and our in-house team.
Mm.
And of course we have a full benefits package. We pay our team what they would get paid at a big house or more. So it's something that kind of makes everybody happy. And it just, it was good timing for us, the way that the publishing industry, the traditional publishing industry, was starting to really consolidate. And it was a lot of people at the higher levels were getting unhappy with what they were doing, and so that really worked in our favor to attract some really high caliber talent.
Yeah, I mean, practical inspiration publishing has had a similar sort of bounce from people who just don't want to work in the way that traditional publishers work anymore, and
Yeah.
want to be more flexible, and all the kind of good stuff that we really interesting. As I said, you do more than just the editorial stuff that you started off with, and I noticed particularly you talk about strategic direction, and you talk about
Yeah.
navigating the publishing industry, and I thought that was really interesting because
Right.
it ain't easy. So just tell me a little bit more about what
Yeah.
people don't know they don't know.
So, yeah, and that was another one of those things. Like when we started, we weren't doing any of that, partly because we had no idea. We didn't know anything about the publishing industry. We were just focused on writing books. But more and more, our clients, they really wanted that extra help. And because we had so many of them, at that time, like early on, we were doing maybe 100 clients a year. Now we're doing about 500 different clients a year. Um, but we just found there's this huge need where people just didn't know where to go. A lot of people were getting scammed. A lot of people were going to self-publishing or hybrid outfits that were just scamming them. And so eventually, we just said, you know what, we really got to figure this out and make sure that our clients are not only getting editorial or writing services, but that we can, and it also made sense because we had this great funnel of clients, of writers, of authors, and we were doing really high caliber work with their books. So there was these great books, great writers, and agents and publishers, they're looking for sources that are reliable and that are going to give them high caliber work that they can trust. So it actually made a lot of sense for us to start to bridge that
Yeah.
gap. And so we really got in deep into what we call publishing navigation, which is figuring out what the author wants, what their goals are, but also what's realistic, with their platform, with what their book is about. Like, what's realistic? Is this something that can sell to a big five publisher? Does their timeline even make sense and their goals make sense with that kind of a route? Or should this go to a hybrid publisher? Should they think about self-publishing? Should they self-publish this book and then, work towards their next book being a traditional published book? All these questions we've kind of figure out with them early on in the process, which is
Mm.
important. Um, and put a whole strategy together for, and it usually is like there's often a plan A and a plan B. Let's figure out this. Let's shoot for, whatever they say. They shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you hit the moon. But at least we're giving it our best shot. Whereas others, they say, look, I need a book out in 6 months. I've got this big event coming. I just, I only need options that are going
Mm.
to, serve that purpose. Um, and a lot, and a lot of times, those conversations that we have with the bigger picture, they can really shift the whole direction. Like, the writers will come to us with one idea in mind, and then after we kind of look through everything, we're going in a whole different direction. I mean, it's always going to be, of course, their choice. So we'll support the author whichever way they want to go. But after kind of just talking through it, one example is there was this billionaire client, Tom Golisano. Actually, I got his book right here. It was a Wall Street
Built Not
Journal
Born.
bestseller. Built Not Born. That's right. But when he came to us, he had it in his mind he wanted to write a memoir. And he had made billions of dollars. His company was worth $40 billion. He started it from a $3,000 credit card. Really rags to riches type of a business entrepreneur success story. But the fact is that, as I mean, memoirs are really hard to sell, for one thing. Even if they're a famous person, they're
Yeah.
hard to sell. And if you're not a famous person, it has to be incredibly well written, or just be an absolute, like, never heard before story with all kinds of, and you still got to write it like a novel. You got to write it in
Mm.
a way that grips people. And anyway, it was just clear that when he came to us, his idea was, because everyone had told him,
Oh,
you
you should
need to
write a
write a book,
book.
you need to write
Yeah.
a book. Right. In his head, he was like, okay, I should write my whole life story. And, but anyway, after kind of having these intense publishing discussions and just planning the whole thing, we were able to kind of talk through how this actually people, in terms of selling a book and selling something that is going to be at a high level. And he really wanted a traditional publisher. We said, we kind of directed him in the direction of a business book. Come up with something that's still story driven, has things about your life, all these great stories that you have, but that has a structure and a message that that we can target business authors and entrepreneurs. And of course, he had this great platform to connect with them, because Paychex is a payroll company and it serves literally hundreds of thousands of businesses in the U.S. So he had a great audience that he could deliver these, that he could target with these books. So anyway, so that's where someone came in thinking they were going to write a memoir, but then realizing that is actually a different book that would make the most sense and still, check off all the lists,
Mm.
all his checklist of what he wanted from the book. And then, of course, not of course, but once that sold, hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, we sold it to HarperCollins. Then the next book, then we came out with the memoir after, and
Yes.
we sold that one to HarperCollins. And that way, he already had kind of an audience, built through his first book. And so we sold the memoir and released that about 2 years
Yeah.
later.
And it's a really good example of how and publishers also do this. They sort of act as the ambassador for the reader. So they
Right. Yeah.
inside the author who has their goals and their ideas about what this is going to be, and say, well, we represent the reader, and what do they need from you, and it can be slightly different. And also the fact that the publishing landscape is so fragmented now, it's so flexible. There are so many different ways to publish. I mean, that's fantastic. You have options, but people aren't born knowing what those options are and what the different pros and cons of them are they? So it,
Yeah.
it
And it's complicated. It's complex, and the traditional publishing is antiquated in many ways, and it takes a long
yeah.
time. People, our clients can't believe it when they're like a year and a half, really. From the time, and I haven't even written, and that's after the pub deal is signed. Not so. But there's just so many options, and there's so many ways, and that's why we never went into hybrid publishing, is because we really wanted to be an advocate for the author in a way that was not biased towards one
Mm.
avenue or another, or one publisher or another. And so, we really kind of help direct them, and then do warm handoffs, paint the whole picture, and then get them to the right people. That's going to ensure that the book is a success for them,
Yeah.
and achieves their goals, which are very different for every author.
And you talk about publishing being antiquated. I mean, you won't hear any argument from me there. It is what it is. How do you see it developing over the coming? It's so fascinating. I mean, I've been in the industry what 35 years, and people have been talking about the death of the book the whole time. So,
Oh yeah.
and here we are. So yeah, what do you see changing, shifting? What's most exciting for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, and you see that when the electronic books came out, everyone thought that was going to kill the hardcover, that's kill the paperback, but that didn't happen. Audiobooks are obviously very hot right now and continue to be, and I think you're going to see a healthy tail with the audiobooks. I personally love audiobooks, especially for something that's uh, like either easy listening, so to speak, or if it's really clear directives, like a business book or something. I really enjoy it because I can do it while I'm in the
Yeah.
car, or while I'm walking,
I mean,
or,
that
or
feels to me
working
like an
out.
additive thing. It's a slightly different market almost, isn't it? Or it's not competing
Yeah,
with print books in the same way. It's a different affordance. It's doing different job for
yeah,
you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and um, but it's still the thing that ties it in, though, is it's still a long form single entity. It's got weight to it. It's not a white paper. It's something that you can really sink your teeth into. And I think people, the more, in some ways, the more that uh, social media and a lot of this kind of, these 30-second clips and everything, the more that things get, the attention span seems to narrow. I think there's also the reverse that happens, that people really value that long form thing. They can really feel isn't just um, a flash in the pan, but something that actually has something weighty to say. And that's why you see some of these podcasts, like Joe Rogan, who's going on for 3.5 hours. I mean, people, there still is definitely a desire for people to have something that they can really sink their teeth in, and that feels more important than what can be expressed in a 30-second clip, or even a 25-page paper. Um, in terms of the future of books, obviously AI is the big trendy thing to talk about. I have lots of opinions on that, both pros and cons. For the record, we do not write any original content, which original content from AI is an oxymoron in itself. But we're very pro human when it comes to the creative output of what's writing on the page. But there's a lot of other ways that AI can really help a writer and boost their output, and so but we're obviously, that's a big thing that we're figuring out right
Yeah.
now, is just how to use AI, how to what where it can be used and where it shouldn't be used, its limitations. Um, but I don't see AI having any major impact on the book as a medium that's going to be valuable and that people are really going to connect with.
I think it is
Um,
going to make those
and
points of
honestly,
differentiation much more acute, isn't it?
right?
Because you're going to have this
Oh yeah,
slew of AI generated sludge and
that's
yeah.
that's been an issue for sure. It's just like for instance, one of our clients, his book came out. It was a New York Times bestseller. It's Read Your Mind, from Oz Perlman. He's been getting a lot of uh, of media all over the place. When his book came out, it was purchased by Viking, and which is a Penguin Random House. About 50 different AI titles, all fake books, all with similar titles,
Wow.
but pretending to be him. Like, it would even have his picture. It was a fake picture. It was all AI generated picture, AI metadata. And there was at least there's probably more than 50, at least 50. All of them pretending to be his book.
Wow.
And just in general, AI titles, there's just been a whole glut of just really poorly written and conceived, and often, you know, illegitimate, fraudulent books that have been, that are just getting churned out. Um, but they're pretty, for a critical eye, they're pretty easy to spot. Um, and what we're seeing is that, especially with memoir, or well, almost any genre, actually, the only genre that the AI is really chewing up, at least in our industry, is those is the really low hanging fruit, the stuff that's just like a generic book about something that everybody, all you have to do is look on the internet and you can find out how to do it, like how to, like financing 101. Okay, AI can write a book about that. It won't be original. It won't be interesting. It won't have any unique voice to it. It won't have any unique stories or spins on it. But sure, if that's your goal, is just to write a generic book that just summarizes a bunch of information, AI can do that for you. Now, there's a whole bunch of ethical concerns, related to that. Are you sourcing the people who that material is actually coming from? There's all kinds of stuff that that I that I don't agree with that make
The
it
plagiarism, the
unethical. But
hallucinations, yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right, exactly, all of that stuff. But just in terms of the quality, that's where you can get there. But in terms of writing something original, unique, with a voice, with an edge, and also like a good writer or is like a journalist, or especially like a ghostwriter, like when you're interviewing someone, or a good editor when you're interviewing someone, coming up with a concept for the book, kind of wrestling with the stories. You can't be in an echo chamber. If you're just typing into AI and using that, it's only going to feed back what you're giving it. Whereas a skilled journalist or an editor is going to really know. They're going to be able to look into your eyes. They're going to be able to know. They're going to sense the room. They'll be able to see when you're holding back and judge whether that's a time to kind of go for it and pull it out, or wait until a better time. There's all these nuances in the human element that come to writing a book, and also just bringing out stories, bringing and finding the pieces of connective tissue between your concepts and your stories and your ideas that just, for now, AI is just not there. Maybe in 50 years, they'll have some kind of thing connected to your brain that can make this all happen. But for now, what we're seeing with AI generated content is very poor quality, very unoriginal by definition, not empathetic, and just not really rigorous, interesting content. So even the ethical issues aside, we're just not seeing very high caliber stuff. And we notice it too, because we see it, we'll see it a lot with our clients, because they won't tell us sometimes, and they'll suddenly write a chapter with AI or whatever. And I mean, it's pretty easy to
It's so easy to
spot.
spot, I know, but it's so
And on,
easy, and this is the thing, isn't it? It's because it's there, it's so tempting, and I think that a lot of people
yeah,
who are not confident about their ability to write think that AI is actually going to do a better job than they would, and this is, I think, one of
yeah,
the big challenges that I try to face to people. Everybody would rather hear your voice, even if it's imperfect. We have editors for that, but
definitely.
don't ever think that AI can write better than you, because it might be more polished, but it's empty, it's soulless.
Yeah. Not to mention, it could disqualify you from a
Right.
publishing deal altogether,
Absolutely.
because
Publishers are really
they're
nervous
using.
about this. They've got a warrant that it's human
Yeah.
written.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and AI detection software. It's a bit of a mouse and cat and mouse game, but yeah, I mean, they're always getting better. I mean, we check stuff through AI detection software because we don't want to have the wool pulled over our eyes either from a writer. But yeah, I mean, it could disqualify you even from a publishing deal altogether if they detect that there's
Yeah,
AI.
absolutely.
If some of your content that you're passing off as original is
Mm,
actually developed from AI. So a lot of risks in using it.
yeah. What do you love about writing, Kevin? What do you get? Because I mean, when you spend all your day helping other people write, what does the writing look like for
Yeah.
you?
So yeah, so I've never been. I mean, I've written some books and whatnot, but my skill set is never a professional writer because I can't. I'm not. I take too long. I'm too slow and I'm too distracted. And I would need help of a professional editor to guide me through the whole
I bet
process.
you know some
What
people
I
who
love
could help
most,
with that.
yes, I do know a couple people. And that's really been the crux of our whole business is just really finding talented people to help others do what they what they can't do themselves as well. And so my skill set, I suppose, is really just creating a place for really talented people who really love writing books to come together and do it at a really high level. And my role is very much just creating space
Mm,
for that to happen, creating space for figuring out the client side, handling all those logistics, the contracts, the website, like the marketing, all of that stuff, to feed, literally feed the families and of writers and creatives and editors. And so that's really what gets me the most excited is being able to keep writers working and paid, for writing books, to support those creative arts, to have a place where editors can really work on books and work with authors, and also just giving people a voice, because so many, and this is where we where the ghostwriting comes in too, is just giving people, or book coaching, giving people a voice who on their own would never be able
Yeah.
to get these stories out. There's so many important stories and messages and ideas and stuff from people who just aren't great writers, who are like me, who would take, who take, years to write like 10 pages, because they keep wrestling with it back and forth. They really can give them a voice to get that out there and really connect with readers. So that's really the passion for us, is helping make that all
Yeah.
happen.
Brilliant. If you were to give somebody listening who is at the start of this journey, I mean, obviously you're going to say it, come to us, but apart from that, what would be your sort of one big tip for someone who's just setting out on the writing the business book journey?
Um, I'll give two. One of them is get help early.
Hmm.
Get somebody on your side that's not AI, that knows the whole. I mean, not a bad idea to start with AI to help you kind of see what if you know nothing about the publishing industry. Although beware, be very wary of that. But get a professional who knows what they're doing, who understands the bigger picture. Even just an hour conversation with that person could save you hours and hours of time and frustration,
Mm.
because they'll be able to answer questions about the bigger picture, answer questions about what's feasible or possible for you and your journey, and just give you that confidence that you're on the right track to move forward. A lot of mistakes that a lot of people a lot of mistakes that we see are that people come to us too late.
Yeah.
They think, oh, I just want to do this on my own, and then once I've got everything done, then I'll come to you. And then sometimes you look at it and you say, "Wow, geez,
Wish you'd
if
come sooner.
you would have come to us in the beginning, like we would have went, we would have saved you a lot of pain and heartache here, because
Yeah.
this 75% of what you did there is actually not going to work to what you actually
Yeah.
think it should be doing for you." So yeah, that would be a big thing. It's just you got to have a good foundation. You can always change things later on, but it's important to just be aware of your big picture direction before you get going, and just getting some professional help early on is key.
Now you said two, and that was your first one. You got a second one?
Oh yeah, well, so the second one, the second one would be to just when with for a business book in particular, um, just always keep your reader in mind, right? It is important that it's your book, it's your voice, it's your stories, of course. But what do readers really want to know? What's the promise to the reader that you have to bring? And just keep them in mind, that because ultimately, if you can't, if you're I assume most authors, they're not going to want to write a book that's just shouting into a canyon with nobody to hear it, right? The whole point is that you're connecting with the reader. So just think about what does the reader really need. One of my pet peeves with books, with a lot of modern books, is they is I the, I understand there's a level of repetition that's needed to kind of drive a point home, but at the same time, in this day and age, try to be efficient, give meaty, good content. I know there's the saying, write like you're writing to a sixth grade, level person, to make it that understandable. I understand all that, but one of the tips I would have for any business writer is just keep your reader in mind, respect their intelligence level. Also respect the fact that if you're talking over them, that's also going to be a problem just as much as talking under them. And just make sure you have something to say that's going to be meaningful to them, and that they're going to want to, that's going to be applicable somehow or another in their life.
Brilliant. I mean, that's kind of everything you need to know about starting writing a business book right there. Thank you. And I always ask my guests to recommend a book. I'm guessing this is going to be really hard for you, but what book would you recommend us?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll have to be, I got to promote some of my clients' books. So I will say Read Your Mind, because it is brand fresh. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's been a bestseller month after month. Um, it's his name is Oz Perlman. The nice thing about this book is it's a great business book, but it's also a great book for life skills in general. that book will teach you how to gain an edge in terms of remembering people's names, in terms of setting the stage of the conversation that's going to be to your advantage. And it's there's a lot of great business lessons that he's learned over the years, and then there's a lot of great personal lessons. So it's a great book that you know if your partner is not a business person, you both can read it together, and you'll have all kinds of takeaways for interpersonal dynamics with your business, and they'll have all kinds of takeaways for just how to impress people at a dinner party. So, but it's a very good book called Read Your Mind. It's from the world's leading mentalist.
Fantastic. And I'm just puzzling over the idea of having the kind of marriage where you read a book together. That's not going to happen for us, but wouldn't that be lovely? I'd like that.
Oh, I know. There's been a couple over the years. Usually they're relationship books for me and my partner, anyway. But yeah.
Brilliant. Kevin, it's been so much fun talking to you. You've given us so much wisdom. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you, more about KAA, if they want to maybe see what you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, so the website is kawriting.com. So KA writing, like writing a book.com. And that, we have when you go there, if you're from the UK, you can flip over to the UK side. We have a whole UK team. And then there's a US team as well. And from there, you'll be able to see everything we do, the ways we do it. There's also, you also see our writers retreats that we do. We do these amazing writers retreats in Tuscany that anyone is welcome to go and be a part of. But yeah, it's a great resource too. There's lots of not only Q's and A's, but a lot of just articles and advice on the publishing industry in general.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll put that link up on the show notes at
Thank
extraordinarybusinessbooks.com.
you.
And yeah, thank you so much for your time today. It's been terrific.
My pleasure. Thanks, Alison.